Hey there, YouTube. Thanks for taking a moment to stop in at my channel. I'm in the process of doing 50 million things, including setting up my new Oculus, but I thought I would come in here and start this process because I'm running a little late on it. So, my last video, I promised that I was going to come out with a series that was going to help people who are trying to get started in the aquarium keeping hobby. This is video one of that series. This video will be covering tank size, selection, stands, things of that nature. The reason for this, just briefly, is because I've seen a lot of people out there who've been struggling to kind of set up new tanks, especially in this last year with COVID. A lot of parents are just trying to get more activities, something to keep their children busy and interactive and things like that. And a lot of people are having a lot of problems. And the reason for that is the internet is a scary place because it gives you so much information it can get overwhelming. If you follow this series, we're going to go step by step by step. If you have questions along the way, feel free to post them below. If this sounds like something that would be beneficial to you or somebody you know, go ahead and click the subscribe button, click the bell icon. Feel free to share the video. Hopefully we can help them out. If that's you, if you're a parent out there and you're struggling, or you just, for whatever reason got turned on to the idea of having this hobby, this is exactly the kind of video you're going to want to check out. So, let's cover a couple of things. There's two kinds of people in this situation, realistically. Somebody who has none of the stuff yet, and somebody who maybe got a hand-me-down or a gift or acquired either the stand or the tank. For both of those people, the solution is going to be the same. But let's talk about the people who have nothing first. So you need to know two things in order to figure out what size tank you're going to get. You need to know how much space you actually have available, dimension-wise, right? And then you're going to need to know how much space the fish that you're going to end up putting in the tank actually need. Is the tank enough? So both people are going to start off the same way. I would recommend that you go to a local fish store, not a big box retailer, somebody who actually specializes with fish, and go into the freshwater section. I don't recommend salt. I don't recommend brackish water for people who are starting off. And walk up and down the aisles. Bring a pen and paper, bring your smartphone, take notes, and write down the species name of species that interest you. That's going to be step one. You may find that you're a person who's attracted to active, colorful fish. It's something more like these guys who are more active and colorful. Or you may find yourself more interested in fish that have more personality. They're not going to be as colorful, but they're going to be a little bit more interactive. Or maybe you're interested in a heavily interactive fish, something that'll come straight up to the glass and say hi to you like this little girl does to me. There's all different options there. So walk up and down the aisles, figure out, don't worry about the data for the fish or any of that stuff at this point. Just figure out what interests you. You're going to be eliminating some stuff off of this list, so you don't have to keep it super small or anything. Literally anything that you go there that causes a natural interest from you, just write the species name down. You may be forced to make some tough decisions down the road, but for right now, this is the part we're doing. So once you've done that, you're going to come home, and this is when you're going to start your research. I don't want you to focus on anything about the fish except for the minimum tank size requirement. Now, I'm going to put a little asterisk in here and say I don't recommend getting the minimum tank size for any species. If it says it needs a minimum of a 10-gallon and you get a 10-gallon, it is going to be a cramped environment, and it's going to become more difficult to add additional fish. You're going to create, the need for a lot of overfiltration, a lot of water changes. And I will say one other thing, just for what it's worth. I don't actually recommend 10-gallon tanks for people who are new. The smaller the tank, a little bit more difficult it is to kind of keep up with it. Put it this way, if I put a drop of poison into this 10-gallon tank here, and I take that same drop of poison and I put it into this 20-gallon here, then this tank is going to be affected twice as much as this one is by that poison. It'll dilute twice as much in here. Think of that as fish waste, that poison. It becomes more important to do maintenance more frequently and water changes more frequently the smaller the tank is. That being said, if you get some super huge, massive tank, then of course that's going to require a level of physical effort as well for cleaning and keeping up with it. But you wouldn't have to worry about water parameters going crazy nuts on you overnight or anything like that. So I just wanted to add that in there. I do recommend people start off with a 20-gallon tank. You have an option with a 20-gallon tank if you can fit the minimum size. There's your standard, and then there's your long. The standards will come in kits. They're available in kits, which can be more cost effective for starting off. Although later when we talk about filters, we'll have a conversation about the differences between filters, and the type that comes with these are considered what they call hobs, hang-on backs, but we'll get into that. However, the 20 longs do not come in kits. That being said, I do feel like the 20 long is the superior option, but again, your fish species is going to be dictated. So you're going to look up your minimum tank size. I would, again, advise getting a tank larger than that, but orient them by that. If they require a tank that's larger than what you can fit, then take them off the list. In order to look for tank sizes, just go to Google, type in tank sizes, and one of the first 2 or 3 hits, there's going to be like a saltwater aquarium website. If you click that, the opening page will give you all the dimensions you need to know. So I'll cover up to the 55 gallon, which is what I have. In my opinion, the 2 best aquarium sizes in here out of all of the tank options that I have is my 20 long and my 40 gallon breeder. They're the easiest to scape. They're the most versatile. They have some of the best footprints in the sizing range that you can have. The long and the short of it is 20 longs and 40 breeders are your best options up to 55, in my opinion, for versatility. However, they're not available in kits. Neither of them are. I don't know why. I feel like everybody is conspiring against us as hobbyists, because really those should be the kits right there, in my opinion. But what are you going to do? So once you've gone through this list, you're going to find that you've eliminated some. Maybe you didn't eliminate any. The next thing to look at is going to be water conditions that they want. Don't worry about the temperatures. Focus on the hardness. Typically, if they come from like South America area, Central America area, they're going to want softer water. Typically, if they come from like Africa, something like that, they're going to India, they're going to prefer neutral to hard water, depending on what you got going on and where it's at. Look at that list, and then one thing I would recommend you do, I would recommend you go and get yourself an API Freshwater Master Test Kit and test your tap water conditions. Figure out what your natural water conditions are, and that may help you to decide, because as a for instance, these are African cichlids in here, and that's an African cichlid as well. They're from Lake Tanganyika. There are South American cichlids as well. Let's say something like an apistogramma. They require a different water condition than these guys. They can't be mixed. And if my water out of the tap is more along the lines of the African cichlids numbers, which it is, then that makes it a much easier species for me to care for, because if I end up trying to do something like apistos, I'm going to need to get into doing something like RO water, reverse osmosis. We'll get into those kind of conversations. I'm not an expert in that subject, but test your water conditions and then use that as your barometer for which ones to take off of the list. Once you've done that, chances are temperatures are all going to align. Most fish keepers keep their fish at a temperature between 77 and like 80 degrees typically. I keep mine between 78 and 79. That's where I prefer it to be. Sometimes I'll dip down to like the 77.5s. This is 77.7 right now. This one's 79. So that's kind of the range that I personally keep mine at. And this has puffers from India. It has African cichlids. It's got zebras. Like I said, temperatures will tend to overlap. So you start by figuring out what interests you, what kind of space you have, what kind of space they need, and you start elimination. After that, you use your elimination based off of the water conditions for hardness and stuff like that, soft or hard water. After that's done, you just verify the temperatures for the fish. It's just taking it one little bite at a time, right? And you can just literally make index cards or just scrape them off of a list, whatever you want to do. And then if they fit, I recommend going with the largest tank you can so that you don't have to worry about overstocking as much. I would not, however, recommend for a new person going over a 55. Next comes the stands. And guys, stands are super easy. Here is the gist. Apple to apple, if I try to build a stand of the same size using my own materials, something very similar to this, it is going to cost a fraction of what it would cost to buy this. Now, if I wanted to build something that would hold a 55 gallon, similar to this, 3/4 inch ply, top and bottom, 5-inch support posts, I could even do a vertical post in the middle. I could even put doors on it and or paneling to make it, say I wanted to do the same thing right here. I didn't have all this extra material up top. It was apple to apple. Paneling, doors, make it match the brick, whatever I wanted to do. I would probably still spend a little bit less on this. If not, maybe equal. But the one thing that would be guaranteed is that the built stand will be stronger if it's built correctly. All of that being said, if I wanted to purchase this, it would probably cost at least $200, right? At least. Let's say there's a sale. It's probably about $200. Let's say it's $150. For $150, I could build that. And I could build it with stronger materials. No problem. But I could also build this. This ultimately, really, if you went to a store on any given day and tried to buy this, I think you'd be spending somewhere between $200 and $300. If you have the tools you need and not the materials alone will cost you less than $300 to build this. And you could build a double stand, something that would hold 255 gallons technically. This one wouldn't, but you could do that for about the same price as that, assuming you have all the tools. So that's the bottom line. It's ultimately going to be up to you. You're going to need to trust your ability to build or have somebody who is competent that can teach you and work with you, or somebody you can pay. And if you have to pay somebody, it's probably not going to be as cost effective. There's a number of different options. You could add doors. You could add paneling that just lifts off with magnets or off of screws that you just leave hanging out in a couple of holes in the panels. Those panels can be anything from corrugated plastic to actual something you'd put on walls to whatever. You could paint. Doesn't matter. So the customization option of a built stand is what I like. This is my very first ever built stand. It's not perfect. I didn't have clamps at the time I built it, so there's a couple of imperfections, but it's still damn strong and durable. You're just going to want to be sure you have the right tools and you know what you're doing. You're not going to be wanting to build anything off angle. If it is off angle, it's going to have to be very limited by how much it is, or you'll have to maybe even be able to compensate for that in the build. So that's it. That's all there is to it, guys. Not rocket science. I don't have a recommendation on which you do. Whatever is most convenient for you is probably the right thing to do, with all honesty. You're not going to have a problem with buying a stand. There are some cheap metal stands and some cheap wood stands that do exist out there that I'd question. If it seems too good to be true compared to everything else you're looking at in the market, then it probably is. But I wouldn't recommend spending an exorbitant amount of money on a stand either, because at that point, quite frankly, it would be worth your time to buy the materials and build it yourself. So that's it. That's what I got for you guys. Thanks for stopping in. That is the video number 1. Stop back in if you want to see video number 2. It'll be coming out soon. That'll be on substrates, not nearly as long as this video. This is one of maybe 2 or 3 of this series videos that are going to run a little over 10 minutes. So yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to comment below and let me know. I will try to answer them to the best of my ability. If you want to be sure you don't miss the other videos in the series, click the subscribe and the bell notification below, and we'll see you guys in the next video.